I'm gonna keep running with this. So what I was saying in that last video is that so first I was doing one where a little bit back I was talking about how a lot of life, what life is it's the combination, it's unity, because the existence, I think existence, a better word is probably existences, because we know of nothing that is entirely singular. Even our body, according to Arthur Avalon, is duplex. We have 2 feet, 2 hands, two lungs, 2 eyes, two sets of teeth. We have the human body is duplex fundamentally, and a lot of structures in nature are duplex. And if it doesn't have 2 of something, it can be seamed into. So to say reality or existence singular might be very redundant if we just look at how reality appears and is experienced by us. So it'd be more accurate realities and existences, and you don't necessarily have to get into science fiction to appreciate that. But yet things are unified. Even as they are dual, they are still yet unified. In terms of at least purpose and function. I think the functions and the purposes and maybe the causes and are unified. Even as they're being dual or plural, they're still unified in essence. And so the universe is similar, where it's unified, but it's broad. So you have to really appreciate anything, the universe, you have to appreciate it on a collectively, that is an aggregate, that is a composite, that is a sum, a total. You have to appreciate it from that term, but you also have to appreciate it respectively on the individual term. So Arthur Avalon would say homogeneous is unified sameness. Heterogeneous is distinct, respective, disparate, diverse. And you can see that by appreciating how broad the sky is, how beautiful the sky is. But then you see a little tiny, tiny, tiny ant. And if you know anything about cause and effect, and you've lived anything of life, you would be very hesitant to interfere with the goings on of the smallest of ant. If you can understand how things ripple and reverberate and redound and resound and come back and redouble, so that I wouldn't trifle even with the very smallest of things. Ant, I wouldn't trifle with the ant. And in some cultures, they say it's not appropriate to even step on a blade of grass unless you have a purpose. So it's not that we never step on a blade of grass. It's not that we never slay anything, but we don't do so without a purpose. But you can understand mechanics, that is design, that is engineering, if you can understand the sum being greater than the sum of its parts, the sum is greater than the member of its parts. Yet the sum is not greater than the member of its parts, because the sum is not more valuable than the smallest part, because the sum is not viable without the smallest part. So to understand the combination of something respective, that is an individual unit or member, as part and making up a greater member, that combination, that something can be respective and collective together, that's dynamic and unified. And I think that this reality is dynamic, is unified, but it's also dynamic. So maybe you could say another thing is unified would be homogeneous, and dynamic would be heterogeneous, that is respective. And so you have collective, homogeneous, unified, respective, heterogeneous, diversified, and through both of those being true at once, like I've said in another video, 1 and 1 can be 2, or it can again be 1, because it can be 1 and in addition another 1. But is anything different than anything? So you can also say 1 and again 1, and so 1 and 1 can be 2, and 1 and 1 can be 1. That's it. You're not necessarily changing the expression or the terms, but you're changing the appreciation. And so maybe the universe is the same, where we can appreciate the universe. The ant is not different than the entire universe, and the entire universe is not different than the ant. Yet the appreciation and the understanding of the entire universe and the ant is not limited to the ant and the entire universe, or both. And that's what is dynamic, and that's why you can have polarization, and that polarization is what makes things possible. Man and woman, what really is man, what really is woman? Maybe there is exactly no answer to that, because it can't be 1 and 2 and again 1 and 2. It can be both and 1 and none, and as equally true as you choose to engage that and appreciate that, because there's yet a choice in all things. So that might be some of the dilemma, but also the brilliance of what is man and woman. So are you born a man, or do you choose to be a man, or both? And is that beautiful? Any degree of that, and all degrees of that. Are you born a woman? Do you choose to be a woman, or are you both? Or is all that true and some of that true according to choice? That's yet beautiful, but that's also what gives life reality. So when two people are making lovers, like some people would say, like there's always the loved and the lover. There's the one doing the loving and the one being loved. You can take that in different degrees. Like they say there's the one that kissed and the ones that's kissed, and there's always a little bit more of a kisser. And in some senses, that would be disingenuous, because it's like, well, one person likes one the other more than the other, but that's not necessarily a total appreciation for what's at play there. Because if you take the most, I don't know who made the most beautiful lovemaking of all time. That'd be interesting. Who actually was the couple or couples or group that made the most beautiful love? And that actually might be redundant, because there might be no "the" when it comes to love. That might be the only thing that's beyond the as worthy as the word "the" is. "The" might be blasphemy to put that next to love, and just maybe we could just say love is love. So there's no love that had ever been better or worse than any other love, if it were love. But there is something still of dynamics within that, in that there's a little bit of push and pull, there's a little bit of leverage, there's a little bit of indifference, there's a little bit of, that's what courting might be. Is that courting might be just more of a dynamic, in that it's a little bit of play, because it's not really creative, it's not play. Like you take like guitar, and like people would say like a guitar player, but a lot of people take guitar very seriously. And discipline is not outside of play, because sometimes you have to do a little bit of discipline to truly enjoy play. But it's not really creative, nor is it fun, nor is it creative, nor is it fun if it's not fun, nor if it's not creative. Without there being play, without it being playful. But there's a little bit of a like playing tag. What's a clear example of what's a better example of playing that is creativity, that is playing, than some kids playing tag or cops and robbers? You need one running away and one chasing to really be fun. So it might be the same with relationships and romance, and that's actually again back to dynamics. But it has to do with the fact of being polarized, that things are polarized, but there's also a choice in things. So a person chooses to be kissed, a person chooses to kiss. You don't have to kiss, and you don't have to be kissed, but part of choosing to be kissed or choosing to kiss is what makes it appropriate and suitable to choose or to kiss and be kissed. But I was a little bit getting on a tangent with that too. But I just wanted to talk about dynamics with that. So, but that does go to my video. I'm gonna make just one more for this series, and it has to do with dynamics, and that's the more beautiful aspect of lovemaking. But the next video, and the purpose of this series, is the heavier aspect of dynamics that I wanted to point out.